Do you want to hear it? You can hear me? I'm pretty loud, so no, not you all. I mean, I'll talk a little louder, but I just want to make sure she's got the lav mic. Sorry. I'm going to go ahead and start. I think there is usually hi, welcome. I think there's usually a sheet y'all have to sign somewhere. Does anybody have that? Or usually Dr. Andrew Pierce comes in, or a TA that you all have, a grad TA, comes in and takes that. So look for that when you're coming around. I think at least when I've done this before, there's, oh, there it is. Yep, he's got the sign-up sheet. Yep. Yeah, you can sign that up. My name is Dr. Jennifer Bay. I am an associate professor in the English department here at Purdue. And my two colleagues, Amy Wood, who is the Director of Volunteer Engagement at the United Way, and Lindsay Payne, who's the Director of Service Learning, couldn't be here. Lindsay is actually coming back from leave. She's also an assistant professor in environmental and ecological engineering. Some of you may know her because she's worked with some EPICS teams before. So our topic for today is how to prevent failure in community engagement projects. And I'm going to go through kind of a top 10 list about those, and then we're going to have an interactive activity that you're going to get to do in small groups about that. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I've been here since 2002 as a faculty member in English. I do a lot of service learning projects in my courses. I work primarily with Food Finders Food Bank, but I've worked with a lot of other agencies like Area 4 Agency on Aging, the Tippecanoe County Historical Association, WIC, and others. I also just started in January as the editor for the Purdue Journal of Service Learning, and I'm sorry I didn't bring a copy for you all. I would encourage all of you all to think about submitting or co-authoring an article for that journal. It's a peer-reviewed journal for primarily undergraduates who are engaging in service learning, who have done research as part of their service learning projects, who want to share their experiences, write about their experiences, reflect on their experiences, and even theorize them, what they learned, what they got out of it, so you can share those. So I'd really encourage you, if you're interested, to publish in that or submit an abstract based on your experience in EPICS. Right now we have several articles, usually each issue, at least one that's about EPICS often. So we'd love to see something from you. So think about that. And if you have questions, you can email me, and my contact information is at the end of the slide. So let's go through this top 10 list. Amy Wood and I have done this presentation multiple times, and we thought that one of the ways that we might be fun to do this is really think about the top 10 ways to ensure your project fails. So if you can think about really all the ways that your EPICS program or EPICS project might fail, what are the top 10 ways to really ensure that it's not going to go well? So we'll go through these. Okay, number 10, lack of research. A lack of research is huge, right? You go in and you expect your community partner or your professor to tell you everything you need to know, and then you just do the work. No, that doesn't usually work. Usually there's going to be some research you have to do ahead of time. Go to the website, right, for the organization or the partner you have. Look at past projects that organization has engaged in. Look at their history. Look at their annual reports. Look at anything that you can find about them that's in the community. Another thing that's really important too is ask questions, set up interviews, engage in some ways. I know this seems like it's self-evident that some of you guys know that, but oftentimes I think there's a disconnect between what we think we know and what we actually know. And so I would challenge you to test those assumptions. Just because you think you know something, just confirm it, just validate it, right, with a little bit of research online. I'll give you a good example. I have had some students in a class who were working for some materials for a board of an organization, an executive board of directors for an organization. And they went through all of this work, and I realized toward the end of the work, they were having some problems, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I was like, do you know what a board does? What does a board do? And they had no clue about what a board does. They thought they were employees of the organization. So I assumed, of course, erroneously, they assumed they knew what a board was. They just thought oh, that's what a board is, right? They just assumed it. They didn't kind of check themselves a little bit. So I'd encourage you, do some research, check your assumptions, figure out what you don't know and what you need to know, and what plan you can do to get that information. And here I've got a little information on that. Do more than just Google. Make an appointment, take a tour, learn about missions, interview key stakeholders, look at past documents. I would add to this, volunteer. Volunteer. If it's a not-for-profit organization in the community and there are volunteer opportunities, do it. I know some of you are working with partners who are really far from here, Gary, Indiana, or other places. Try to volunteer with an organization that has a similar mission here, just get your foot wet, right? Or maybe it's somewhere abroad. Think about, how can I get some experience that's local, right? Okay, time, right? Budget more time than you think you're going to need. Again, check your assumptions. You may think, oh, I can get this done tomorrow. I can get this done overnight. I can get this done whatever. It's going to take you a while. I'm actually working on a community engagement project with students, and they emailed key stakeholders to get some feedback on a document, and they heard from 2 out of the 3, and they're still waiting to hear from the 3rd one, and this was 2 weeks before spring break, right? It's going to take you longer than you think it's going to. And I've got some points here to remember. Get started right away, right? Even if you're sitting on the bus, I know you guys have phones. Sit on the bus and do a Google search, right? Start to do a little plan on your notes, right? Pull out your laptop, jot it down on a piece of paper. Start thinking through it, start budgeting your time. Allow enough time in your week to work on the project, visit the site. Don't be timid and not try to reach out, right? Reach out. Don't be afraid to maybe even fail and maybe even contact the wrong person at the agency, right? Don't be afraid to just step out and start early. It's really interesting because as an instructor, sometimes I get really nervous when I hear, oh, students have already contacted the agency and we haven't even had our tour yet. But I have to remember, that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing because they're enthusiastic and they're reaching out and they're getting ahead of the curve, right? And then I think this is a really important point. If you have a good attitude and are willing to learn, you'll be in a better place to assess the time commitment and lay out a work plan. So if you can jump right in and think, okay, I got to get this done, I'm going to start ahead a little bit, then I think you're going to have that good attitude that will help you finish in time. Number 8, lack of planning. This is also a big issue, right? Create a well-organized work plan. We don't have this in this room, but last semester we were in the previous room and it had the design process, right, that you guys go through, right? That's really important. Planning out your project in advance, making sure everybody's on the same page about what they're supposed to do. Consider using a memorandum of understanding. If you don't have those or don't have access, you can email me, Lindsay Payne, anyone in the service learning office. You could ask Dr. Pierce or anybody else who's involved with EPICS to give that to you. Refer to it. Go back to it. Don't forget about it. Just don't do it and forget about it because there's really important things there. It lays out exactly what you're promising that your team's going to do, when you're going to do it, and how you're going to do it. That can be a great way to manage your projects. And then this is my personal favorite. Consider making weekly project updates to the community partner in writing. I tell students this over and over and over again. You may have phone conversations with the community partner. You may have phone calls with them. Maybe you're in there volunteering all the time. But documenting your progress and having a written document about what you were doing that they can either access or get to on email is crucial because they're doing a million things at once and they might forget about where you are or what you told them. It happens all the time. Think about starting a Google Doc that you just share with them that they can go to. Think about a weekly email if they're okay with getting email. Put it on whatever, maybe they use Slack or some other kind of, solution, digital solution or digital course management system. See if you can get them on your Blackboard. I mean, that might be another option if they're willing to do that. But figure out how can you document this and so it shows that you're planning out. I'm actually just incorporated an assignment in my students' for my students class this semester on their final project, which is the last 6 weeks, and they each have to write a 200-word progress report individually, even though they're doing teams. And part of the reason I'm doing that is I want everybody to be on the same page so they see what each other's doing. They can articulate to me what they did, you know, that they're saying, I did this, this is where I'm at, this is where I need to go next week. So we all are on the same page. And you might consider doing that. Lack of communication. This often happens, and this goes back to the first one, assumptions, right? Communication is key. Be professional. Think about this as a job that you're doing, right? You want to have multiple conversations. You just don't want to go in and visit the site at the beginning of the project, have one conversation, and that's it till you present at the end. You want to be in communication with the community partner. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to inundate them all the time. You have to negotiate that. So say, for instance, they don't want to get an email every week on your progress, right? Maybe they want to have a Google Doc that they can go to when they want to, right? When they've forgotten, right? Or maybe you want to schedule weekly or biweekly calls or visits. Maybe they like to talk on the phone. Seriously. Maybe they don't want to read email. Maybe they want to meet with you in person. Think about what preferences they have. Ask questions, but also don't inundate them, right? You might even save your questions. Maybe everybody has lots of questions, and then you think, okay, we need to meet and hammer out all these questions, right? And that's going to be more productive. So you have to assess kind of every moment what's going to work. 6, it's all about me. This is a big one. This is really, really important in terms of failure. You're not the center of the universe. This is called service learning for a reason. You are serving, right? So a lot of you guys are busy, you're overwhelmed, you have lots of classes, you're trying to get good grades, you're trying to get internships, you're trying to get jobs. Absolutely. We're all like that. But your project is not the center of that partner's universe. It's not their number one priority. In fact, I would say on the list of things, it's probably down here somewhere. Seriously. Because many of them may be in direct service. They may be doing crisis intervention. They may have, you know, a lot of employees. They may have a lot of things going on, a lot of activities. They may have a big fundraiser, right? So you've got to respect that and remember it. Likewise, you're not necessarily the audience for the project, right? There's another audience or stakeholder out there that this project is going to meet the needs of. So again, be patient. Your project is one of many that the partner's doing and that they have a busy schedule. But be persistent. Just be polite about it. A lot of times community partners love your project and they don't mean for it to be down here. It's just these other things kind of pile up that are immediate. Does that make sense? Just like you guys, right? Oh my gosh, I got 5 tests this week and I really love this project, but I got 5 tests this week, right? And I'm overwhelmed, right? So you just have to be kind of politely persistent about it. Sometimes they are ready to help you. They just need some prompting or reminder. At the same time, you know, respect their time. Expecting the partner to blank is another way to ensure your project fails. Or having unrealistic expectations of your community partner. This is a service, again. The community partner is not at your beck and call. Again, I told you I have a group this semester who emailed those stakeholders, got 2 out of the 3 back, and were able to give feedback from it. They're still waiting on the person. And I just saw that person at the organization who said, oh, I'm so sorry, I haven't emailed your students back. And I'm like, it's okay, right? Because I know they got the feedback that they needed at that point. I have had situations where I've had students who are like, they're not emailing me back within 24 hours. They're not calling me back. And I'm like, they have lots of stuff to do, right? This is not about you. This is about the project. Don't expect them to drop everything and get something to you or do the work for you or tell you what you want to know. Oh, they're just going to tell me what's supposed to be in this project or document, or they're going to tell me about the users, or they're going to tell me about this other audience or other use they have for it. You may have to figure that out, and sometimes you have to be creative about it, right? You have to be creative. One of the things I would challenge you guys to do is in your project plan, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself because it might be coming up, have other tasks that you can work on while you're waiting to get information from your community partner, right? Don't just stop everything. Oh, I've got to wait. I got to wait to get these answers. Do something else. Make sure you have other tasks you can do, right? Don't be timid and expect the partner to set up everything and you just show up. You know, again, do some research, take initiative, get involved. If you haven't heard from a partner, and this is crucial, show up when you think you need to, right? If there was a conversation that looked like they wanted you to come on a specific date, but they didn't get back, you said, yes, I'll come, but they didn't reply to say, great, assume that you have to go, right? Don't wait for a response. This is also a little bit shifting gears. What we really think you need is, this is something that's very hard for us because you guys are at Purdue. You are the best and the brightest. You are doing amazing things here. I'm telling you, your work is important. You may not be able to see that, but if we step back nationally and look at what you're doing and what your education is, it's amazing. So sometimes it's really easy for us to think, oh, we know what that agency is. We want to make this project like really stupendous and tremendous, right? But sometimes the community partner doesn't necessarily need that or want that. So you've got to find out what they really need. Find out what projects have been completed in the past and how effective they were. What are the constraints your partner may have? Be happy with a project that the partner wants but that you might not think it is exciting. Sometimes they want something really simple like a lighting system, right? And that sounds like, oh, really? Just a lighting system? We could do this. We could make a marquee, you know. We could make it so efficient you're going to save $100,000 a year or something by this lighting system, right? Maybe they don't need that. Maybe they just need the lighting system, right, so people can see. So you got to balance that a little bit to what they need and what you can provide them with, right? You got to meet in the middle. You may have big ideas, and they may just be like, oh, I just want, you know, this smaller other thing, right? So you got to think about that. Related to that is what actually they can even do, right, with your product. And that goes to number 3, a usable product. You guys talk a lot about usability, user experience, right? Experience architecture, right? User experience, right? This is huge for you. You already know this. It's probably been hammered into your head, but I got examples on both hands of projects students have produced in this community that the partner could not use after the fact. Make sure the partner has the right equipment or software to edit or even open the product, right? Don't think everybody has Photoshop. Don't think everybody has Illustrator or even Adobe Acrobat or something to edit PDFs. Many times students have done amazing products and the community partner can't change them because they don't have the software. So the dates or the times or the location may change or the logo, and they can't update that information because they don't have that software. Staff and programs often change. They can't adapt. It becomes obsolete. You may have somebody at your community partner that can do all these edits now, but what's the likelihood they're going to have that in a year or two? Maybe it's that one person, right? Make sure there's somebody who can implement and maintain it, so sustainability after you're gone. Again, don't rely on just one person to do that. Make sure there's a sustainability plan. I'll give you a good example of this. My students this semester are also working on a project for food finders, and one of the things this is a continuing project over multiple semesters. They have a database system to track their visitors to their pantry, and it's not very good. And we've done research. Could we get a different system? Could we buy something else? Could we build one in previous semesters? And one of the things that our community partner has said, don't build us something because we can't trust we're going to have somebody who can maintain it, fix it, and develop it over time. So instead, guess what we're doing? We're taking their software they have, and then we're going to build Excel pivots, right? So they actually can generate the reports and analyze the data that they need. Seems so simple, but sometimes not-for-profits, it's easier just to build a robust system for something like spreadsheets, right, than it is to create this big new database system that's going to be awesome, right? Finally, if it's not professional looking, it won't be put to use. And again, a waste of time and resources. It has to be something that's professional, has to be something that they would pay someone for, that they would use something for, right? That's not something that you just, oh, it's okay, it's just a student project, right? They're not going to use it. They need something that represents them. Not-for-profits today, if it's a not-for-profit agency, they're business-like, very business-like. Some of them are huge, right? So you have to treat them like professionals. They also all work. That's something I don't, that might be in a future slide, but I have to tell you this. A lot, I still have, if Amy Wood was here, she'd tell you this. So many people who work in the not-for-profit sector are asked continually, do you get paid for this? As if it's like volunteer work, as if they're not professionals. She gets paid as Director of Volunteer Engagement at the United Way. Almost anybody who works for actually a 501c3 organization, unless it's just a small, you know, community one-person enterprise, is probably going to get paid, right? So again, they're professionals. You got to remember that. These last two are really important. Number two, no follow-through. This is really challenging with something like EPICS, which is semester after semester after semester. But again, going back to the previous slides, documenting your progress along the way will help you to leave it at a clear stopping point. I know you guys do that, don't you? You have a system where you have to document what you're doing every semester, right? And you have that file, right? That's supposed to be in there. But getting the next group to read it can be a challenge, can it? Yes, I know. I've heard this over the years many times. Maybe, I mean, I think it'd be awesome if EPICS like totally tried to figure out some way to get the next group to read it, right? Maybe there should be a quiz. Maybe I should make a quiz and you have to pass the quiz before you can join the EPICS team based on the research. I don't know, but that's documenting and then reading what people have written, right, in the past to start. It should be easy if you're having check-ins, but don't drop off the face of the earth and expect somebody else to pick up the slack. Don't tell your community partner, we're going to have this software to you or this solution to you on, you know, April 26th, the last day of class, and you expect your other person in your group to pick up that slack and do it, right? Make sure that you follow up if you're not sure. Ask your team. And then finally, the number one way to ensure your project fails, you don't show up. And I wish Amy Wood was here because she has some fantastic stories of situations in which community partners who will no longer work with Purdue and Purdue students because Purdue students did not show up and they needed Purdue students to show up. We have several sites in the community that we can no longer have partnerships with because students didn't show up. It happens more than you think. She has a great story, and I can't get all the details right, but that, you know, this whole group was supposed to show up to help this community partner or agency move on a Saturday, and it came there, and they were all this back and forth. Yes, we're doing it. We're all going to show up. You know, she was like, are you going to have everybody, blah, blah, blah. And that Saturday came, and here it was, 8 o'clock in the morning. They had all of these pallets of stuff that had to be moved. It had to be moved right then, and nobody showed up. Nobody showed up. Somebody was sick. Somebody had a family emergency. Somebody thought somebody else was doing it. And so luckily, this agency called Amy Wood, Director of Volunteer Engagement, who was able to get some other people to show up and do it. But that community partner will no longer work with Purdue students because they're unreliable, she says. So, you know, often, again, the community partner are expecting 5 or 2 to show up, and nobody comes. The partner is prepared for you, maybe done a tour for you, maybe created work, created a project, collected information. I have community partners who spend a great deal of time pulling information, pulling resources for students to come in to work on, right? They're spending their time trying to help you. Fewer people that show up may leave the project incomplete, right? And then the community partner has to do the extra work, right? Communicate, let people know your plans. If you're sick, You're sick. I'm not telling you not to get sick, right? I'm telling you, you've got to communicate. Make sure there's somebody who is a point person in your team, and then an alternate point person on your team, right? So it's not just you and you get sick and you're in bed, right? But make sure that there's a structure that you can follow in that, so that you need to reschedule or you can change things. Don't just sit back and let others on your team or expect others on your team to pick up the slack. Okay, so we have some real world examples and we look like we have plenty of time to go through them. So I want you to get into a group of maybe 4 or 5. I'm trying to think, I think there's like 6, I think there's over 30 of you. So I think if we did groups of 5 or so, we could have 6 groups. And I've got 3 real world examples and I want you to take one of them. So maybe we'll just do like the first one, second one, third one, depending on how y'all group up. What strategies or steps would you use to ensure success in these following scenarios? So let me read them to you and I'll show you what they are. The first one, you've been invited to plan and organize the opening reception for the new EPICS project you just developed at the community partner site. So maybe, you know, the last semester's team almost finished it, you've finished it up, it's ready, but now you're tasked with actually planning and organizing that reception for your project. Number 2, you're working to develop an urban garden irrigation system in a local apartment complex. There are 4 to 5 students on your team. Your instructor already has a lot of experience in and ideas about gardening. And then the third scenario, you're working in a team of 4 to 5 to develop a software solution to track and assign volunteers for a local senior center. So why don't you can get into your groups, maybe we'll do kind of divide it up. So 2 teams over here can do the first scenario, 2 can do the second, and 2 can do the third. Take about maybe 10 minutes and then we'll report back. How would you ensure success? What are some of the steps you would take to ensure success? Okay, no? So y'all can do the first one. Yeah? Do you have any questions? So you're just jotting down, have somebody jot down some things like how would you ensure success? That's your task, right? You have a task. How are you going to ensure success? So that's just the first one. How are you going to ensure success?
Well, we're talking about planning on like sending out a flyer or something.
Okay.
Initially, and then sending out like reminders and probably having some form of catering in order to like incentivize people to come.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like guest speakers.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like,
Yeah.
just organize like guest speakers.
Yeah.
Maybe one person appointed from the team along with a couple from the organization to kind of give the scope of the project and the background and what the goal is.
That sounds great. Maybe meet with a community partner first to find out what they want, who can come, right?
Well, yeah.
Number 1,
yeah,
what are the dates? Yeah, think about that. Keep going, write some more things. Jot some down so you can report back. How are you guys doing? Are you doing number 2?
Yeah.
You're doing number 2, okay. You got any questions? You're good? Yeah, jot down some things. And you guys are on 2, right? Yeah, awesome.
Live there and talk to them because maybe the volunteers have a different idea than what the actual people living there have an idea about. And like
So y'all are on 3.
could figure
Yeah.
out something that would make
You got any?
happy.
You got any questions or anything? No? What have you come up with so far?
Scenario 3, like
Yeah.
make